My uncle was a Bigfoot hunter. I didn't have the best relationship with my uncle. It hadn't always been like this, though. I remember my childhood and how we'd spent a lot of time together. Sometime after I turned 6, he suddenly went dark, and his visits nearly ended completely. He used to come around about once every 2 months, and then out of the blue, I was lucky to see him once every 10 years. He had nearly become a distant memory when I received a phone call from him asking me to visit him. I was going to say no, but then he dropped the bombshell that he was dying. Years of smoking had caught up to him, and he didn't have much time left. He even offered to pay for my flight. My uncle lived on a ranch far removed from other people. I think his closest neighbors lived about 20 miles from his patch of land. He seemed to enjoy it this way, and I had wondered about it before. I would soon find out why. I knocked on the door, and it opened to reveal the smiling face of my uncle. He was far removed from the memories I had of him, just barely recognizable. But that's what 10 years and cancer do to a person, I suppose. He invited me to sit down, and we exchanged a few pleasantries and general chit-chat. My uncle had brought out some snacks which I had enjoyed as a child. I honestly didn't like them as much now that I was older, but I didn't want to say that and just thanked him. It was after an hour that he got to the meat of the matter.
Now, Nephew.
He actually used my name while talking, but I don't want to reveal it, so I'll just replace it with Nephew, for the sake of this, and I'll address him simply as Uncle.
Are you still big on that whole saving the rainforest thing?
Oh, right. Yeah. I still want to help protect the environment. I've started a project to save a type of frog within South America, and there's this big... My uncle raised up a hand.
Sorry. I would love to hear all about it. I did love your stories back when you were little. You had such a vivid imagination. Honestly, though, I never thought that you'd actually embark on a journey to become a real environmentalist. I'm glad you did. Nephew, I don't have a lot of time left, so I want to get straight to the point.
He took a deep breath.
Do you believe in monsters?
Monsters? I asked, confused.
Yes,
my uncle said.
Monsters. They exist. You might not believe in them now, but you will when this is over.
I don't understand, I said.
Let me ask you another question. Do you believe that every species on Earth has a right to be protected?
He asked. Well, yeah, I said.
And if you had the power to save one of them, would you?
Yeah, I would, I said. My uncle relaxed a little, and then he got up to get his rifle.
You know how to use one of these?
Yeah, my dad taught me, but I've never actually used one of them in a dangerous situation before, I professed.
You probably won't need it, but take it anyway,
he said.
I'll explain what this is all about, but I need you to come with me somewhere.
We then spent about 15 minutes hauling supplies to the back of his truck. All in all, it was probably enough to last someone several months, and I was honestly confused as to why my uncle would need that much. While he drove me to our destination, he started talking again.
Do you believe in Bigfoot? Sasquatches?
He asked. Bigfoot, I said, and laughed. The town where I grew up had a Bigfoot sighting 10 years ago. It wasn't all too famous outside of it, though, and I doubt anyone outside of our town has even heard of it.
Well, you see, when you think of some stories of ape men or the like,
my uncle continued,
you'll know that the Native Americans also had similar stories of seeing such creatures. It seems to tell me that they probably are real. But that leads to another question, of course. Why haven't we ever found one? It's said that at one point the population of humans on Earth was only 10,000, but we bounced back from that. If we assume that there are even 1/10 that amount of them around, only 1,000, we should still have found traces of them. Dead bodies, excreta. There should be videos of them migrating for food, but there aren't any. And all you can find is very bad, grainy footage occasionally.
So they're not real, then? I said, with a shrug. My uncle shook his head.
There's an easy answer to that paradox. The reason we haven't found them was that they were hunted to near extinction by people like me.
I was waiting for the laugh, indicating that this was a joke, but it never came.
It was after my stint in the Army. I was looking for work. I was an experienced hunter to boot, so some suits from the Feds came around to try and recruit me. They said I had to hunt a kind of ape, and I needed the cash at the time, so I agreed.
My uncle said.
I never really found out why it was the government wanted them gone. Some of the other hunters had their theories. Some said we were harvesting their organs. Others said that we were going to clone them to make super soldiers. Some people thought that the Bigfoot was actually more advanced than us and would threaten our position as the dominant species on Earth. I have a simpler theory. We hunted them because we wanted their land. Bigfoot tends to be rather docile most of the time, but they are also very territorial. Some people must have died at one point because of them while encroaching on their land. The government realized that we had to wipe them all out. Of course, this isn't the 1800s. If the public got wind of it, well, it'd be bad, so the project was kept hidden. I was pretty good at it.
My uncle said.
I had a total of 339 confirmed kills. I never thought anything of it at first. I just thought I was hunting any other kind of animal. Till one day, I was all alone, tracking two of these creatures. One of them almost got the jump on me. I managed to kill it with a lucky shot. Thank the gods, or else I wouldn't be here today. The other one ran away. I went after it. I was able to finish it off 20 minutes later. I followed some of its older tracks to a small enclave in the woods.
His hands began to shake a little, and I offered to drive.
No, it's fine. I'd never seen a child before then. A child Bigfoot, that is to see. The old baby animal was still an animal, after all, so I raised my gun. When it did, something none of them had ever done before. It spoke. I'd heard roars and growls before, but never actual words. 2 syllables. Mama. It said them again, and something else, and began wailing. The way it said that, it reminded me of you, nephew.
He smiled fondly.
I know you don't remember, but I remember holding you in my arms while you spoke your first words. You were so adorable back then.
His smile vanished.
It was then that what I was doing hit me. I wasn't saving humanity from some rabid animals. I was wiping out another species, which was maybe as smart or even smarter than us.
My uncle said.
I never mentioned what happened to anyone else, but I quit sometime later. I'm sorry I wasn't around more while you were growing up. I secluded myself up here. I had to.
He said, and then stopped. We had arrived at a small clearing. He handed me the rifle and got off the truck.
Something I haven't told you. There was a reason some of us thought that the Bigfoot was superior to us. They have a special skill, so to speak. At first, I thought they had some kind of telepathy. No. They're able to communicate with a special type of sound wave that travels for hundreds of miles. It's at a frequency humans can't hear. Once we used special equipment, we were able to detect it. That's why it's so hard to find them. Once you encounter one, that one will contact every single other one in a 100-mile radius. Tell them to run.
My uncle pulled out a strange flute.
You know what a dog whistle is, right? This is kind of the same thing.
Up till then, it had occurred to me that this might have been some sort of elaborate joke. My uncle wasn't really a prankster, but maybe he had wanted to make me laugh one last time or something. That, or maybe the medications were interfering with his reasoning ability. He played something on the flute, and nothing happened for 10 minutes. Even though my neck kept turning at the slightest sound made by the forest. Every twig snapping or bird chirping nearly made me jump as the suspense dialed up to a crescendo. When I finally told myself to relax and take a deep breath. And then I knew that my uncle was perfectly sane and hadn't been telling me some weird story. Out of the corner of my eyes, I saw a dark figure emerge. Now, you've probably seen some footage or drawings of Bigfoot. I'll say that many of them are reasonably accurate. You're looking at something about 8 feet tall, which is very ape-like. That is to say, except for the face. That face was surprisingly human. And it made me wonder how it was that my uncle kept killing them without a bit of remorse for so many years. It had a strange way of walking, and paused after taking 2 steps. It pointed a finger at me. The words were deeper than any other voice I'd heard, and a little garbled, but the meaning was clear enough.
He's my nephew,
my uncle said. He then pointed to his truck.
I got all you need, but I'm dying. I won't be around here for long.
He then turned to me.
I hope you'll keep taking care of you, but my time here is up.
He began to cry, something I'd never thought he'd do.
If you want to kill me, you can do it now.
A chill went down my spine.
I was the one who killed your parents. I think you know that.
My uncle continued.
You might as well take me out of my misery now.
The thing raised a hairy fist, and I raised the rifle reflexively. But my uncle put up a hand to stop me.
This is what I want.
I hesitated, and that was a fatal mistake. Even if I wanted to, there was no way I would have reacted in time to save my uncle. But no killing blow came. Instead, the thing pointed a finger at my uncle and said, Tears flowed down my uncle's face like a faucet.
After all this time?
I helped my uncle, who was sobbing, so it was really me doing all the work, unload the supplies, and we drove off. What was that about? I asked him angrily. Were you really gonna let it kill you?
It's a he,
my uncle corrected.
I've done so much wrong, nephew. Throughout my life, raising him was just a partial atonement for my sins. I know it isn't enough. I can't even walk into a church and confess my sins to anyone. I'm sorry, though. I didn't want to drag you into this, but someone needs to keep supplying him with food. I keep him hidden, but if he goes out to forage for food, he'll be found someday. This place isn't big enough for him to live off the land.
Why this rifle, then? I asked.
Cause,
my uncle said.
I was worried he might try to kill you as revenge instead of me. After all, I killed some of his family. He might have considered that to be fair. I wouldn't let him hurt you. Of course, I was completely wrong. I was thinking about what I would have done. But he isn't like me. He's much better, bigger of a person than I am.
It was then that I realized what my uncle had been talking about earlier. The monsters he spoke of. He wasn't talking about the Bigfoot I had just seen. He was talking about humans. Part of it must have been about himself. Most of it must have been about the other people who had organized the hunt for these creatures, who still walked the earth freely with no guilt in their souls. "So what do I have to do?" I asked. My uncle's eyes lit up a bit.
Will you do it? Will you take care of him for me?
My uncle said that he would leave his investments, totaling $12 million. Hunting Bigfoot apparently paid very well as the ranch. It would be more than enough for me to keep the place running. I could even hire some helpers to work on the ranch, though he advised against it, as some of them might talk. My uncle died 3 months later. I was with him when he passed away. As he couldn't confess his darkest sin to the pastor, he confessed it to me instead. For the last 4 years, I've been running this place mostly smoothly. Something strange did happen the last time I went to supply him. Behind him, I saw 2 shadows. One was a bit shorter than him, and one was even shorter than me. It appeared that he had found himself a partner, and even a child. Where had they come from? Most likely he had signaled to her using the special call he had. The 2 of us didn't talk much, but I did tell him I was happy for him. He smiled back and said, "For many of you who enjoy hunting for Bigfoots, not in the sense that my uncle did, of course. I just mean people who like searching for signs of Bigfoot. I have a message to pass on to you all. Don't bother. You'll never find them. They know to hide from humans. Many, if not all of the sightings you hear about, are just hoaxes. I even have the suspicion that many of the hoaxes are done by the government to discredit true sightings. But I know that I can't solve this problem alone. If people don't know what's happening, the few remaining ones will be killed. And I can't save a species like this. I need to get the word out to let the public know what the government's been doing behind your back. And we can't let them continue. I have devoted lots of time to saving these creatures, but I can't do it by myself. Already, I know many of you will dismiss this as a tall tale. But for those of you who do believe, remember, the best thing you can do for these creatures is simple. Leave them alone. In case you do find one, or think you saw one in that area, maybe you could leave something to eat for them, but it's doubtful that they'll come back to that area. After all, even I wouldn't trust humans after what they've gone through. Salutations, dark passengers. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this story. I would like to thank the author, Drechenaux, for allowing me to share this story with you. With this narration, I'm introducing Triumphrat 629 as the voice of the uncle. I want to say a special thank you to him for taking the time and having the courage to put his voice out there. It is very much appreciated, and it is a pleasure working with you. I also have thank yous for Romnex and the Dark Somnium for lending me your feedback and music respectively. I am also giving a shout out to Myuu and the musical artists like him for providing all of us narrators with amazing music free of royalties. It's a privilege to be able to partake of their creations. Lastly, I wish you all a safe and fulfilling holiday season. Until next time.